In this video, I'm going to focus in on the highest leverage point piece that can virtually change your entire life. It can change your relationships, it can change the way that you date, it can change the way that you experience happiness, the way that you bounce back from situations that are unfortunate, your career, everything. And I know that seems like a big promise, and I'm going to point in the direction of something that I invite you to give more attention to that really can impact all these areas I just talked about. Now, before I dive into this, I'm going to talk about the mechanism at play here, the mechanism that determines your quality of life. It determines the results you get in your life. It determines the type of people you bring into your life and the type of experiences that you have with them. And this component is, in the physical world, something called the reticular activating system. And it is a component that lives within your brain. And what it does is it's a filtering system. It's a filtering system that allows you to make sense of reality. And when you're able to make sense of reality, you know where you stand in the world. You can interact with the world in a way that is consistent with your identity, that eliminates uncertainty, it eliminates unfamiliarity, and allows you to go about your day and survive. That's what the reticular activating system does. So if you think about it, there's so much happening at once in this world, right? I mean, if you were to try to take in everything at once and had no filter, you probably would not be functional. Not even probably. You wouldn't be functional. You wouldn't be able to function in this world if you were taking in everything all at once. So this RAS, the reticular activating system, allows you to function in life based on past experiences. It is essentially your belief system. It's what creates beliefs for you that you can then filter and move through life with and create, once again, certainty in your life where you have some type of predictable outcomes. Now, the RAS does not care about whether you're happy. The RAS does not care about whether you are living a thriving life and getting what you want. The only thing it cares about is your survival. And not just your physical survival, but the survival of your self-concept, the survival of your self-image. It doesn't care whether your self-image is negative. It doesn't care whether your self-image is positive. It only cares that you have a cohesive self-image that you can then confirm, find things in life and confirm that self-image over and over again. All right? Now, just to give you an example of how the RAS shows up in your life in a really benign way. Imagine that you are about to buy a car, okay? And let's say that you want to get a red Toyota RAV4. All right, now, once you've made a decision that you want to buy that car, or perhaps you do go and buy it, what ends up inevitably happening? You probably start seeing that car everywhere on the road. In places where you didn't see it before, suddenly it's down every street, it's parked on every corner, you see it in parking lots. That's your RAS at play, because your brain has begun to hone in on something and focus on it. It's become part of your awareness, and now you see it everywhere. All right? Another way that the RAS begins to show up in your life, and this is the one where it can be a little bit more, let's say, it can drive your life down one road that has a lack of quality to it versus one that actually has openness and love and vulnerability and relationships that work, is if you are holding on to a belief that men are shit, or women are just after money, or people are not to be trusted, or the world is a dangerous place. Okay? Now, the thing is when you've got these beliefs, it's not necessarily that they are wrong or that they're invalid. In fact, they're just as valid as perhaps the opposite belief. But what happens is when you have one of these beliefs, your brain looks out into the world, and what it does is it looks for confirmation that those beliefs are true, because those beliefs are tied intrinsically with your identity around who you think you are. So if you believe that, for instance, men are only after one thing, right? Sex. Men are only after sex. What does that mean about you? Well, you might have a belief about you that the only thing that you have of value to a man is sex. The only thing you have of value to a man is your body. And then what happens, if that is part of your identity, what is more important than you, say, breaking that belief to your system, to your unconscious mind, is that you find ways to confirm that that is true about you. Because that certainty feels better than maybe suddenly believing that maybe men actually want me for my personality. Maybe men want me because men actually do want to deeply connect. That actually feels more unfamiliar to you if you have a belief that is embedded in you that men are only wanting sex. It feels better to confirm that to your system than it does to suddenly deal with this uncertainty. So this is the dilemma that we find ourselves in, is when we have these beliefs, we look out from this worldview through this tinted lens that it allows us to find confirmation of those beliefs, so we in turn feel safe about who we are, even though the results we get from those beliefs might not actually be serving our lives. So here's another brass tacks way that these things show up. So if you think that men just want sex, then what you might find yourself doing in relationship is, one, actually finding and being attracted to men that are at a stage of development where they only want sex, okay? Because there are men out there that do just want sex, but when we have these blanket statements, what we look for, what we see, just like the red car, is we find guys and get into a relationship with guys that are like that because it helps us confirm something about ourselves, which gives us a sense of certainty, allows us to feel right about who we are, and then we go ahead and we have a miserable experience with them, one that perhaps our conscious mind doesn't want to have, but at least it feels familiar, at least it feels safe, because we know what the heck is going on. So we might find ourselves, even if we begin to get into a relationship or start dating a guy, for instance, that does not want just sex, we might find ourselves somehow just not working properly with them, where we're trying to maneuver our way into the relationship and using sex as a way to get into the relationship, which turns that guy off, or perhaps communicates to him that that's actually what you feel like you have of value, and then the relationship gets off kilter and the two of you end up not working out. And what that confirms, oh, well, it's about sex. The guy just wanted sex again, and this is why he's gone. So another one, and the reason I'm making this video too is because when I make these videos about men and about relationships, there is a subset of women that comment and maybe will not like the video or comment, and they'll throw a blanket statement about men on there, about men just want one thing. Men want women that are this age. Men are not to be trusted. Why are men babies? Why are men XYZ? And it's really unfortunate because when I read these comments, I know for a fact that if someone has that belief, they're having a really hard time with relationships. They're having a really hard time finding quality men and even men that'll stick around long enough to change that belief for them, because the guy doesn't want to do that. It's not his responsibility to change your world around whether or not you believe that all men are crap. It's up to you to take responsibility for that and begin to examine your premises. What are the premises that you are operating from that are creating the results that you are having in your life over and over again? Now, another belief that somebody might have that causes relationships to crumble underneath them consistently is, I don't deserve love, or I don't actually think I'm good enough for the person that I'm going after. Now, that one might hurt to really think about. It might hurt to say out loud or even identify with that that's there. That can be a really core one of just, I don't actually feel like I deserve the love that I'm looking for. And see, often what ends up happening then is if that's the premise that you're operating from, when a man comes into your life and perhaps begins to show you that he is valuing you and that you are deserving of what's happening, you see it as suspicious behavior. You see it as something where it just doesn't feel congruent. It feels off. It feels like there's something wrong, because what's happening is it's bumping up against your belief system, and you are having a hard time organizing whether or not this is fact or fiction. And what typically happens then is, because it starts to feel uncomfortable and it starts to stretch us in ways in which we might not be ready yet, we contract, our defenses go up, we maybe break the connection from the guy to protect ourselves. And what it looks like is sabotage. When in reality, what's actually happening is we are not wanting to give up a core belief we have about ourselves in service of creating the type of love that our conscious mind wants. So One way, and I'm going to begin to wrap up this video here with a question or two that you can begin to think about and ponder on your own, that can begin to take your gaze and move it towards the context that you are creating in which your experience is arising, is this. Look at the experience you're currently having with men or with women. Look at the results that you are getting in your life, all right? Whether it's perhaps a string of breakups over and over again, whether it's women that are only after you for your money, whether it's women that are dumping you consistently, whether it's men that seem that like they're only after sex, whether it's men that seem like they're not to be trusted, they're not trustworthy guys. Ask yourself, what might someone believe in order to consistently create this experience over and over again? What might someone believe in order to create this experience over and over again? Now that question, what it does is it puts the responsibility back on your lap, and it actually maneuvers you out of being a victim where life is happening just to you and you're at effect of it, and actually says, wait a second, what if I am creating these experiences over and over again? What is it that I might maybe believing that is having me create this experience of not finding any good guys over and over and over again? It might be a core belief about yourself. It might be another core belief about life itself. And when you begin to see these things as beliefs rather than reality, there's a little bit of choice and flexibility that begins to surface and arise within that. Now, that's a couple questions just to get you started and beginning to get you to see that this is the highest leverage place that you can begin to look to quite literally change your life, is the beliefs in which your identity changes. So what I'm saying here is your life's results are a reflection of the narrative that you have about yourself, right? So who are you being that the way that the world is occurring to you is this result? So that begins to get the mirror. You start to look at the mirror, then you start to see yourself a little bit more clearly as to that you are actually creating the results that you're getting in your life. And then you get to a very perhaps scary part, because now you realize that maybe you are responsible for the results that you're getting, and now it is your responsibility to do something about this. So if you're looking for help, if you're looking for a way to begin to completely revamp your self-concept, the way that you see who you are, the way that you see yourself in life, and the results that you think you are deserving of, I want you to feel free to fill out a coaching application below this video. Because what I do with folks as an NLP practitioner is work on this identity belief level change work, where we go in and we begin to craft and hone and really see what is the set of premises that you have been operating under, and based on what you're wanting, how do we begin to look at the premises and the identity that you will need and want to embody in order to have that be a natural and automatic possibility? So if this interests you in the slightest, feel free to fill out an application below. Tell me a little bit about what's going on in your life, what you're wanting, and we will be in touch. Thanks.